Leo Brouwer's Etude number 4 from his collection of 20 etudes is another fantastic study for us to help us work on balance between thumb and IM, bass having the melody and the accompaniment being in the index and middle. There are a lot of very interesting things that Brouwer has incorporated into this piece, and it really is a great benefit for us as students of the guitar. Besides for being a beautiful piece of music, it again really focuses on this idea of balance. I strongly encourage you to buy the edition of the Brouwer Studies. It's very inexpensive and is a great resource, something that you'll want to have in your library. In looking at the piece, the first thing that we notice is that the time signature changes. And if we look closely, we see that it alternates measure by measure between 2/4 and 3/4 time. For us, this isn't very significant in that he has told us to accent the bass line. The bass line's the melody. So, as we're going through, we're going to be accenting that bass line regardless of whether we're in 2/4 or 3/4. This is very similar to Brouwer study number 1, where what we're actually going to be counting are eighth notes throughout the entire piece. As we move forward, the next step that I have students work on is to take out just the bass line and hear what the melody sounds like. So I would start to play through from the beginning, and I would count eighth notes. How many eighth notes does each bass note sustain for? So for example, the first bass note is a D, dotted quarter, 3/8 notes, followed by E, an eighth note, 1/8 note, F, quarter note, 2/8 notes, and so on and so forth. So we can hear what the melody actually sounds like. I'll play through the first 2 or 3 lines for you, just the melody. By identifying the melody, one, we hear what it's supposed to sound like, but then we can really get a feel for how that counting is going to work. As you add the accompaniment fills in the gaps of all of those beats that we were counting. So, there's actually something on every eighth note of this piece until we get to the final line. So we know that that stays consistent. The next exercise that you're going to want to focus on is the same thing we did with Brouwer Study 1, practicing in the right hand playing a loud bass with quiet index and middle. I would put my thumb on the 4th string, index and middle on the 1st and 2nd string, and just practice going loud thumb, quiet I am, loud thumb, quiet I am. The piece is divided up into a number of short phrases, so I listen for cadence points, points where there seems to be rest. So what I would do is, I would then start to break apart the piece and play slowly, bringing out the bass against the actual accompaniment. The first phrase, which starts in measure 1. Phrase 2, which starts in measure 3. The next phrase, which picks up right where we left off on at the end of the second line. The next phrase, starting in the middle of the 3rd line. A repeat of that phrase. The next phrase. A mirror of that. A conclusion to that section of the piece. beginning. So breaking it up this way will allow you to focus on smaller sections and really hearing that melody against the accompaniment. Now, there's some interesting notations in this piece. The most notable is something that we see over and over, post fija, fixed position. Whenever we see this notation, one finger or a bar is going to stay planted while other things move around it. For example, if we look at the second line, starting in that first measure of the second line and continuing on through the post fija, our pinky stays fixed. We have pinky remained fixed for that entire time. And we'll see that occurrence every time he's identified post fija. The last line is very interesting for us because much like Brouwer 1, we have this decrescendo and fading away. So we're going to count the entire line. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. And I would also retard through all of that to match the decrescendo. This is a great piece. Enjoy it. I look forward to hearing you play it.